All right, let's do this. Let's talk about those linear transformations to our data and how it affects our center and spread, and then those weighted averages. So here was the assignment on that. So here we had a situation where a curve was being done. So this was a multiplication component and an addition. Okay. So we're keeping track of how that's affecting things. So for the new mean, okay, of course, see we have our function 1.2 times the mean that we had plus 10. So see the measure of center is affected by the multiplication and addition. But the standard deviation, that was 10. Okay, so see that's what we're putting in here, the old standard deviation and the old mean, okay, is 1.2 times 10. No plus 10 for the addition, okay? All right, next we have got our weighted situation here where we had 85, 72, and 61. So my question was, are these all, they don't tell us any other information, so I guess that means they're all equally weighted. So that was 72.67. So we're just going to go with that. Next, this was an actual AP question, FYI. So here, see, they have a transformed score, 3.5 times the raw score plus 6.2. So look at how they kind of made this more than just a, can you compute? They asked, which is not true. So what you were looking at is that the measures of spread are only affected by this multiplication component, and the measures of center, the mean or median, and like position. So even the quartiles, Q1, that kind of stuff, they're affected by the plus 6.2, the measures of where things are located. All right, but see, look here. I can see A and B are measures of center, so they're affected by both multiplication and addition. But C, D, and E are measures of spread, so their statement should say only the multiplication by the 3.5. Well, that's where answer choice C went wrong. The range is not affected by the plus 6.2. Okay, here. Then next we have Marco's college amount. This was a weighted average, so we found out this was different than I gave you in any of the examples. Look here. So his scores for this 66% for his lab and first semester of 82%. See, so the first semester grades and the second semester grades. And then the question is, how much does he need to make on his final exam so that he gets an overall average of 80? So therefore, we had that X. And then you just do algebra and then you solve it that way. So he needs to get an 89. All right. Next is number 5. I guess that I skipped that down here. So number 5 is here we had this is similar to the notes that we had to the problems. We just had 50 cars and 10 trucks. And then what's the average of all those 60 items? And so there it is. Okay, moving on. Next, we had this health clinic. And so we were seeing how much things change when you have a raise of $1,000. So that's just a plus $100 or $1,000. So the average changes, the median changes, but the measure of spread of IQR and the measure of standard deviation, no change. But on the next one, when we had a 4% raise, okay, so, rather than just that $1,000. So think about what that is and how that actually works. When you have a 4% raise, that means you get what you got plus 4%. So in essence, you have a multiplication factor of 1.04. The multiplying by the 1 makes the salary what you currently get in addition to that 4% more. Okay, so that's a multiplication. So that's a stretch. Okay, we're getting bigger. So I just took those upper and lower amounts and I multiplied those upper and lower amounts by the 1.04, and that's how I got the new upper and lower amounts. And will this 4% raise affect the measures of spread, IQR, and standard deviation? And that answer is yes, because this is a multiplication component. Everybody's getting a different amount. It's not just a shift, it's a stretch by 1.04. All right, here we have another one with a missing item. So here we had the employees and marketers, the engineers, and the rest are managers. So you had to come up with a couple of things. One, you had to figure out that 10%, okay, is how many were managers. Okay, so we had 10%, and then you did not have their salary either. All right, so both of those things were missing. And then you just solved with algebra from there. All right, and then here, each score is doubled. Okay, that's times 2, and then you subtract, and then 5 is subtracting from that result. So you are multiplying first and then subtracting. So again, the new standard deviation is not affected by the subtracting 5. So there's that. Okay, now this number 10 kind of caught me off guard, and so I wanted to come in here after taking a look at this a little bit closer, because I think my initial answer key had the right answer, but not necessarily the correct reason, and so I wanted to finish out the math correctly and do that. Okay, so this question about these 10 scores is asking if we end up, or, what about the data set is not true. So based on the answer choices, you do have to do some computing. So I first put all the numbers in to see what the 5-number summary was. And so then I could see that answer choice B was correct because the 5-number summary is what it came out to be. Okay. Furthermore, answer choice A is also true because 96 is an outlier because the lower fence is 100. So 96 is a lower outlier. Now, with C, if 96 is removed, being a lower outlier, then that would, that lower outlier pulled the mean down. So getting rid of it will allow that mean to go higher. Okay, so then D says if the 96 was removed, the standard deviation would be lower. And that is true. An outlier, when you take away that outlier, is going to make the data less varied. So that standard deviation will be lower. It was this one here. I knew it was not true, but I had the wrong reason why. It's not just because the outlier does not affect the IQR, okay? Because here they weren't changing that outer piece, they were actually taking it away. So I had to compute the new math. So I have that down here. Down here, I put the 10 pieces of data, and the median was the middle. And so then here ended up being the Q1, and then up here ended up being Q3. Okay. But this second set with the pink dots, that's with the 96 taken out. So then the 125 is your median. Q1 is 118 again. Okay. It's still 118. No, it's 118 because it's the average of those two 118s. Okay. So it ends up being, in a slight different location because you have less data. Here, instead of 130 being the Q3, here is where Q3 is the average of those two numbers, which is 134.5. So that means it is actually a larger IQR. So this says if the value of 96 is removed, then the 9 scores has a lower IQR. That's not true. The 9 scores has a bigger IQR. All right, so that's why it wasn't just because the outliers don't affect it. Just wanted to clarify that for you and made sure I had that completely correct. And so I hope that this has helped you learn about your transformations and your weighted averages.